On November 10, 2015, the life of 30-year-old pastor Davey Blackburn was forever altered when he returned home from the gym to his residence on Sunnyfield Court in Indianapolis, Indiana, only to be confronted with his worst nightmare.
A young pastor comes home to find his pregnant wife shot in their home. Her attacker still on the loose. Now police are trying to piece together how and why this apparent robbery turned deadly.
Inside the house, his 28-year-old wife, Amanda Blackburn, who was 12 weeks pregnant, lay on the living room floor, partially nude, grievously injured, and covered in blood. Rushing upstairs, he discovered their 15-month-old son, Weston, unharmed in his crib. Davey immediately dialed 911, as Amanda, though still alive, was in critical condition. Tragically, neither Amanda nor her unborn child would survive this horrific ordeal. The following day, on November 11, 2015, Amanda was removed from life support and passed away. Who could have perpetrated such a heinous act against a pregnant woman? Was it a random robbery gone wrong, or were there much darker motives at play? Get ready to delve into the mysteries of this case, one that, while officially solved, continues to pique the curiosity of countless individuals who suspect that there's more than meets the eye. Amanda Grace Byers was welcomed into the world on July 31, 1987, in Muskegon, Michigan, by her loving parents Phil and Robin Byers. She was blessed with an older brother, James, and an elder sister named Amber. As the youngest in the family, Amanda was enveloped in love, and in return never hesitated to bestow kindness upon others. She started school in Indianapolis, Indiana, before moving to Elkhart, Indiana in 1995 with her family. Amanda graduated from Elkhart Christian Academy in 2006, and she furthered her education at Pensacola Christian College in Pensacola, Florida, where she earned an associate's degree in 2008. Described as both beautiful and graceful, Amanda exuded confidence and grace in all that she did. Her spirit of never giving up was a testament to her character, and throughout her life, she steadfastly held on to her faith in God. Her family's strong Christian values, particularly her father's role as a pastor at the First Baptist Church in Elkhart, deeply influenced her. With a radiant smile that was her trademark, Amanda had a passion for uniting people in their faith in Jesus. It was only fitting that she would choose a life partner who shared her strong Christian values, and so she found Davey Blackburn. Davey, born on November 2, 1985 in Tuscaloosa, embarked on his educational journey at Tuscaloosa County High School, before transferring to Shades Valley High School. During his father's tenure as a pastor at Brookview Wesleyan Church in Birmingham, Alabama, he pursued higher education at Southern Wesleyan University in South Carolina, where he graduated with a degree in religion and media communication. Amanda and Davey met on a blind date set up by Amanda's sister, Amber, who was dating Davey's best friend, Gavin.
We were actually set up on a blind date. My sister's boyfriend at the time went to college with Davey, met the freshman year, and he was like, "Dude, I didn't realize this, but I should totally hook you up with my girlfriend's sister."
It was October 1st, 2005, and they all attended a concert featuring the Christian band Hawk Nelson. Although they didn't expect the date to go well, it turned out to be the beginning of something special. Their relationship moved quickly, but it faced the challenge of being long distance. They were both attending different colleges, and they could only see each other during breaks, typically for periods of about 2 weeks at a time. To make it work, they even sought counseling to improve their communication. Despite the distance, they knew they had found the one in each other and made the most of the time they could spend together. Davey saw Amanda as the missing piece that completed his life in a unique and irreplaceable way. Aside from Davey, Amanda shared an incredibly close bond with her sister, Amber, to the extent that they confided in each other about everything. They experienced significant life moments side by side, whether it was running marathons together or walking down the aisle together with their father. On August 1st, 2008, Amanda and Davey Blackburn tied the knot shortly after Amanda's graduation. Following their nuptials, the couple initially established their home in Greenville, South Carolina, where Davey undertook the role of an assistant pastor at New Spring Church. However, the tug of their previous home grew stronger, prompting their return to Indianapolis by 2012. Together, this young couple embarked on a journey of creating Resonant Church, an institution designed to offer worship and guidance to young individuals, with its message finely tuned to resonate with the hearts of the youth. Amanda and Davey were both deeply committed to their church, with Davey serving as the pastor. Collectively, they invested a significant portion of their time in counseling and guiding the church community. They engaged in extensive discussions on topics such as relationship advice, marital challenges, and intimate relationships, drawing from their own experiences and faith to offer support and guidance to those in need. Alongside the church, their own family began to flourish as on July 28, 2014, the couple welcomed their son, Weston, into the world. As expected, Amanda proved to be an exceptional mother, dedicating all her time and love to her precious child. Therefore, the decision to expand their family further was an easy one. Amanda became pregnant for the second time in 2015. Although they never underwent an official test to determine the gender, both Davey and Amanda were convinced that their second child would be a girl. They even selected the name Everett for the baby, who was expected to arrive on May 18, 2016. Tragically, Amanda would never live to see that day. On the fateful morning of November 10, 2015, just shortly after 8:30 a.m., the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department received a distressing 911 call from Davey Blackburn. He had found his wife Amanda, who was 12 weeks pregnant, collapsed inside their residence. In response to the urgent call, Indianapolis police officers swiftly arrived at the Blackburn residence, situated at the 2800 block of Sunnyfield Court, on the northwest side of Indianapolis. They initiated an inquiry seeking to understand the sequence of events leading up to this tragic discovery. According to his account, the day began like any other. He awoke at approximately 4:30 a.m., dedicated time to reading his Bible, and subsequently departed for LA Fitness Gym around 6 a.m. He explained that he had left the door unlocked due to the fact, at the time, they possessed only one house key, which was attached to his wife's keyring. Davey explained that he had spent approximately an hour at the gym and then concluded his workout session, starting his drive back home. During his drive, he was engrossed in a phone conversation with a friend, which continued even after he arrived home around 7:30 a.m. To avoid disturbing Amanda and their 15-month-old son, Weston, Davey opted to stay in his car in the driveway to finish up his conversation. His phone conversation came to an end around 8:20 a.m., and he made his way into the house and stumbled upon a scene straight out of a horror movie. On the living room floor, Amanda was lying face down, unconscious and covered in blood. Davey said he was initially uncertain about what had transpired, believing that Amanda might have fainted due to a dizzy spell, and that a decorative ladder in the living room had accidentally fallen on her.
I can't imagine any reason why. I mean, we're confused. We don't understand why. We're angry. We're not really sure what to do.
However, as he looked closer, he noticed that her pants were removed. Her underwear was neatly folded under her left thigh, and her shirt pulled over her head, as if somebody was trying to take it off. Although she was lying in a pool of blood, she was still breathing. Deeply concerned about the safety of their 15-month-old son, Davey ran upstairs to reach Weston's room, where he found the child safe and unharmed in his crib. Overwhelmed by a flood of emotions, he promptly dialed 911 to request urgent assistance.
911, the case emergency.
My wife, I just walked in the door coming back from the gym. She's collapsed. She's breathing right now, but there's blood all over the place coming out of her nose, it looks like. She's still breathing. I didn't want to turn her over.
While they entered the house, officers discovered Amanda in the exact condition Davey had described. She was clinging to life, and paramedics engaged in a relentless battle to resuscitate her. When that failed, they rushed her to the hospital in hopes of saving both her and her unborn child, racing against time. With this critical situation unfolding, the investigation swung into motion. Even though suspicion had never been directed at Davey, it was standard procedure to commence the investigation with a close examination of the spouse. So the investigators visited the LA Fitness gym where Davey had been that morning. Following a thorough confirmation of his alibi, Davey was quickly cleared from any involvement in the murder. With this crucial step completed, the investigative efforts could be concentrated on the crime scene itself. The officers instantly observed a series of irregularities within the scene. Amanda's wallet and credit cards were strewn across the floor. A pack of Swisher Sweet cigars were conspicuously placed on the kitchen counter, and a decorative lamp had been knocked over in close proximity to where Amanda lay, all of which pointed to a violent struggle. The presence of the cigars was particularly perplexing as neither Amanda nor Davey were smokers. The scene bore the haunting marks of the violence and confrontation that had transpired just hours earlier. While investigators were diligently searching for clues, Amanda was fighting for her life. Tragically, she wouldn't survive. On November 11, 2015, she was taken off life support and passed away, along with her unborn baby, leaving her family in mourning over her tragic murder and desperate for justice. The autopsy report unveiled the cruel and horrific extent of the violence inflicted upon Amanda. Contrary to Davey's initial impression that she might have been struck in the head, the report indicated that she had sustained 3 gunshot wounds, one to her arm, another to her upper back, and the fatal one to the back of her head. In addition to the gunshot wounds, there were telling signs of trauma, including scratches on her left cheek, a split lip, and the loss of a lower tooth, painting a distressing picture of the physical ordeal she had endured. Throughout the crime scene, extensive DNA swabs were conducted, spanning the entirety of the house. This methodical investigation led to the discovery of a variety of items and pieces of evidence, such as a roll of duct tape, earphones, a bullet, and scattered change on the floor. Collectively, these findings painted a vivid picture of the chaos of the crime scene. Additionally, the caliber of the bullets was identified as either a .38 or 9mm, providing a crucial clue regarding the potential weapon utilized in this tragic incident. Another vital clue emerged within the confines of the home. Amanda's cell phone was located in her bedroom, and upon examination, investigators noticed that she had received an email alert at 7:53 a.m. on the morning of the home invasion, notifying her about a suspicious transaction involving her Chase debit card. Subsequent investigation revealed that the debit card had been stolen. This digital breadcrumb initiated a chain of investigative steps that would eventually lead the detectives to a series of ATM transactions. These transactions, in turn, led to the discovery of surveillance footage capturing a suspect in the act of attempting to withdraw money. The individual in the footage had wrapped a pink shirt around his face in an effort to conceal his identity, marking a significant breakthrough in the investigation. He was also wearing a dark-colored vest. This evidence unmistakably indicated that the home invasion had, in fact, been a robbery that tragically escalated into a deadly confrontation. Around the same time, a series of burglaries in the same vicinity began to reveal a pattern too conspicuous to overlook. On that very morning of November 10th at 5:23 a.m., Jacola Searsbrook, a resident of the same neighborhood, placed a call to 911 to report a break-in. She recounted to the police that she had woken at 4:30 a.m., only to discover her cell phone missing from her bedroom. As she ventured further, she discovered that her sliding glass door was ajar, her potted plants had been disturbed, and her Apple MacBook, purse, headphones, car keys, and even a pack of Swisher cigars were all gone. In an even more disturbing turn of events, her 2007 Chrysler Sebring was absent from the parking lot. The investigation also unveiled that the apartment surveillance cameras capturing still images of the 3 individuals entering the premises. Although their identities remained undisclosed, it was determined that the burglars had gained access by cutting the porch screen, and subsequently opening the sliding door. However, they had disabled the camera during the actual burglary, further obscuring their identification. The second 911 call that morning was placed at 8:17 a.m. by Allison Becker, a neighbor who resided on the same street as Davey and Amanda. She reported that she had not been at home that morning and returned to discover that her residence had fallen victim to a burglary. The thieves made off with 4 televisions, a MacBook Pro, a Tiffany pearl necklace, a pink women's sweater, an AT&T remote, a bag of oranges, and a few bed sheets, likely used to wrap the stolen items for transport. As the investigation unfolded, it became apparent that this apartment was also equipped with a security camera, which, much like the others, had been disabled. This time at 5:36 a.m. Detectives pieced together that the burglars had entered the apartment by cutting through the porch screen and somehow managed to unlock the deadbolt, securing the sliding glass door. To add to the unnerving atmosphere, it appeared that the robbers had settled in, consuming wine and beer before departing, leaving the emptied bottles behind. These unsettling actions hinted at a disturbing level of confidence the burglars had. Detectives at this point believed that the same group might have been responsible for the string of burglaries in the area and could have been responsible for the death of Amanda and her unborn baby. As the police conducted inquiries throughout the neighborhood to seek information on any suspicious activities from the day of the robberies, they indeed found several individuals who had witnessed unusual occurrences. One neighbor recounted that just before 7 a.m. on that ill-fated morning, she had seen a man dressed entirely in black, with a hood concealing his head, walking in front of her house. Another witness recalled seeing the same man who was engaged in a loud conversation on his phone, with a t-shirt pulled over his face. By 7:10 a.m., yet another neighbor reported observing a Chrysler Sebring pull up alongside the man. The man was seen entering the car, which then quickly departed. This information expanded the investigative net, eventually revealing another crucial clue. Surveillance footage from one resident's camera captured both the car and the man. Another witness came forward to report that on the morning of November 10, 2015, she heard 2 loud noises accompanied by a woman's screams, a chilling detail that led the police to theorize that this might have been the moment when Amanda was attacked. The stolen Chrysler Sebring emerged as a pivotal link, unmistakably connecting the dots between the series of burglaries. Remarkably, it was discovered abandoned by the side of the road, not far from the Blackburn residence, on November 11, 2015, the very day Amanda tragically passed away. A comprehensive search of the vehicle led to the discovery of some of the stolen items, alongside an ATM receipt, indicating a denied transaction attempt of $500. Conducted using Amanda's debit card at 6:36 a.m. on November 10th. This evidence was supported by the ATM surveillance footage, capturing a man with his face concealed in a pink sweater, as it was previously mentioned. However, this time another significant piece of evidence emerged. The same man was seen in surveillance footage of a nearby ATM at 6:54 a.m., successfully completing a transaction for $400. This evidence strongly suggested that Amanda had been attacked almost immediately after Davey left the house that morning. Nonetheless, DNA samples were collected from the car and subsequently forwarded for testing, with the results screened through CODIS to identify any potential matches. By November 17, 2015, investigators received a breakthrough, a DNA match that finally put a suspect on their radar. The DNA discovered in the car was linked to a 21-year-old man named Jalen Watson. Intriguingly, Jalen had only been released from prison on August 6, 2015, following a previous conviction for burglary, and he was currently on parole. Delving into Jalen's Facebook account, detectives unearthed a connection between him and a 24-year-old man named Deano Gordon, who also happened to be on parole for burglary. The plot continued to thicken as the investigators tracked the location data associated with the phone numbers of both these men on the morning of November 10th. The unfolding sequence of events began to reveal itself through the location pings from their phones. At 4:40 a.m., roughly coinciding with the timing of the first robbery, their phones pinged off the tower nearest to the initial home. This pattern recurred with the second robbery and chillingly corresponded to the estimated time of Amanda's murder at 6:25 a.m. The digital footprints left behind continued to be traced, leading investigators to the towers closest to the ATMs, where Amanda's stolen debit card was used at 6:39 a.m. and then once more at 6:54 a.m. Gradually, the pieces of the puzzle were coming together, painting a clearer picture of the crime spree. Deeper scrutiny of Jalen's communications ultimately led to the discovery of the third and youngest member of the burglar trio, an 18-year-old named Larry Taylor Jr. A review of the communication records unveiled conversations that implicated Larry in the crime that morning. Born in 1997, relatively little was known about Larry, who would soon take on a central role in Amanda Blackburn's murder. Similar to his associates, Larry also had a criminal history that included misdemeanor charges, one of which involved an incident of public nudity and indecency, where he had exposed himself to a woman in a parking lot. Investigators proceeded to obtain the phone number Jalen had provided for his parole board, which turned out to belong to his older sister, Giornita. When the police spoke with her, she disclosed that on that night prior to the tragic events, Larry, Jalen, and Deano had been hanging out at her apartment. They departed the apartment at 3:30 a.m. on November 10th. Additionally, she shared with the authorities that one of the three men had been wearing a dark vest that morning, corroborating a description provided by a witness. Giornita also handed over a 9mm pistol that had been brought to the apartment, likely by either Jalen or Deano, and left under her bed. On that fateful morning, the trio's criminal activities began with burglaries, which evolved into something far more sinister in no time. According to a confidential informant whose identity remained undisclosed, Larry, Jalen, and Deano had ventured out in the early morning hours with the intention of breaking into a residence to obtain some money. Larry had also brought along a .38 revolver with him. They arrived at Jacola Searsbrook apartment on the east side of Indianapolis on foot. Larry was the first to gain entry into Jacola's apartment and then let the other two inside through the front door. Following the theft of numerous items, the trio fled the scene, using Jacola's car for transportation. They initially drove to the residence of Jalen's child's mother, located near 38th and Kessler Boulevard, with the intention of him being dropped off there. However, as he was unable to establish contact with the woman, they departed and headed to a nearby neighborhood to engage in further burglaries. While in the neighborhood, the men noticed a house with a back porch that appeared vulnerable to intrusion. This particular residence was situated on Sunnyfield Court and belonged to Allison Becker, who was not present at home during that time. The men parked the car and gained entry to the home through the patio door. After spending some time inside consuming alcohol and stealing numerous items, they eventually exited the apartment to load the pilfered possessions into their car. It was at this point that Larry informed the others that he had observed someone departing from a neighboring home, leading them to believe that this residence might be unoccupied. Once they had completed loading their vehicle, the three of them drove to that particular home. It was the marital home of Amanda and Davey. Upon entering the residence through the unlocked front door, the men immediately spotted a purse on the kitchen counter, taking the money it contained and dividing it among themselves. Additionally, they confiscated some credit cards found there. As they continued to search the rest of the home, they unexpectedly encountered Amanda. The men formulated a plan to use Amanda's credit cards at an ATM to obtain money. Their initial attempt to persuade Amanda to accompany them was met with her refusal, and when they tried to physically compel her to leave, she resisted and dropped to the ground. So it was decided that Jalen and Deanna would go to the ATM, while Larry would remain behind with Amanda and her son, who was still asleep in his room upstairs. The informant further disclosed that Jalen and Deanna proceeded to drive to a nearby Chase ATM, but they encountered difficulties in using the card with that particular machine. Jalen and Deanna then called Larry, who apparently provided them with the correct ATM passcode. From there, they drove to a different Chase Bank ATM located in the vicinity of 86th Street and Ditch Road. After parking there, Jalen exited the vehicle and approached the ATM. Given the cold weather, he wrapped the pink sweater that had been acquired from Allison's residence around his face. On this occasion, he successfully withdrew $400 from the ATM, which was then divided between Jalen and Deanno. Meanwhile, Larry placed several calls to Deanno, expressing his frustration and demanding that they return to the Blackburn's residence to pick him up. Eventually, they complied with his request, but by the time they got there, Larry had already left the Blackburn's house and was walking down the street with a backpack he had taken from the home. Larry was reportedly in a state of panic and urged the others to simply leave him behind. He instructed Jalen to drive to an apartment complex situated at 56 in Georgetown, where they left him at the residence of an individual referred to as Shy. While en route, Larry disclosed to them that he had attempted to sleep with Amanda, but she had rejected his advances. As a result, he had shot her once, and as she fell down, he shot her again in the back of her head. Eventually, the men abandoned Jacola's car near 38th Street and Brookwood Drive in Indianapolis and went their separate ways. The diligent efforts of the Indianapolis police, combined with the mounting evidence, culminated in the arrest of all three individuals responsible for Amanda's tragic death, just 2 weeks after the incident.
There's been a major development in a high-profile murder case. A teenager is now under arrest this morning in the murder of an Indiana pastor's pregnant wife.
Overnight, police in Indianapolis confirming that after a nearly 2-week-long investigation, they have made an arrest in the murder of 28-year-old Amanda Blackburn. 18-year-old Larry Taylor taken into custody Sunday on a preliminary charge of murder.
Larry faced a total of 13 charges including murder, burglary, criminal confinement while armed with a deadly weapon, and robbery resulting in serious bodily injury. His accomplice, Jalen, was charged with 10 offenses which included murder, burglary, robbing resulting in serious bodily injury, and auto theft. Initially, the third accomplice, Deanno, was charged with burglary and theft, but as the case developed, he too faced the charges of murder. The dark saga of Larry Taylor extended even further, with revelations about his potential involvement in other heinous crimes coming to light. On November 4, 2015, just a week before Amanda's murder, the lifeless body of Rolando Gonzalez Hernandez, a 27-year-old Mexican man, was discovered next to his car at his apartment complex, having been fatally shot in the head. Witnesses shared with authorities that Larry had openly boasted about a robbery and shooting that had occurred at the same apartment complex, using derogatory language to describe the victim based on his ethnicity. According to Larry, the robbery had produced a measly sum of $10 from Rolando's wallet. Additionally, it was alleged that Larry had confided in other witnesses about breaking into a woman's home and subjecting her to a terrifying assault at gunpoint. Despite these allegations, Larry wasn't charged with these crimes due to insufficient evidence. However, there was no escaping the consequences of his actions in the case of Amanda. Yet the legal procedure to bring Larry and his accomplices to justice was not only complex, but long drawn out, spanning 2 to 3 years of legal maneuvering, plea negotiations, and the anticipation of a trial. Ultimately, Deanno and Jalen reached agreements that required them to testify against Larry during his bench trial. In exchange for their cooperation, the murder charges against them were dismissed. Jalen was sentenced to 29 years in prison, while Deanno received a 30-year sentence. The trial of Larry Taylor Jr. didn't start until December 2021. However, when it finally did, an unusual situation arose. His defense attorney successfully persuaded the court to withhold information about Amanda's unborn child from the jury, even though Larry had originally been charged with the baby's death as well. Nevertheless, the jurors somehow discovered Amanda's pregnancy during the trial, prompting the judge to declare a mistrial due to concerns that it might evoke sympathy from the jury. A second trial was scheduled for June 2022. However, another obstacle arose. Some jurors had become aware of the previous mistrial and were discussing it among themselves. As a result, the judge declared another mistrial, further prolonging the legal proceedings. The third attempt to try Larry for Amanda's murder was scheduled for October 2022. In this trial, the prosecution relied on the testimonies of Deanno and Jalen, cell phone data, and other witness accounts. Thankfully, the trial proceeded without any more unexpected revelations, and by September 2022, a verdict was reached. Ultimately, Larry Taylor was convicted on various charges, which encompassed murder, burglary, theft, criminal confinement, auto theft, and unlawful possession of a handgun. The court sentenced Larry to 86 years of imprisonment, ultimately concluding a chaotic legal odyssey linked to the tragic loss of Amanda Grace Blackburn and her unborn baby. The verdict undoubtedly brought solace to Amanda's grieving family. Davey even went as far as to express his forgiveness toward his wife's killers.
Feel like forgiving. I feel like being angry. I feel like being mad. I feel like being frustrated. I feel like slipping into despair. But the problem with that is that doesn't lead down to any good road.
However, the irreplaceable loss of Amanda remains a permanent void. Sadly, Amanda's son Weston has had to grow up without the presence of his mother, having only been allowed to spend 15 months with her.
The hardest part for me in this whole process is thinking about him growing up without his mom. She poured out her life to serve people. Everything she did was oriented around loving Jesus, loving people.
Weston celebrated his 9th birthday this year and has been thriving under the care of his father, who has found a new path in life. In December 2017, 2 years after Amanda's tragic death, Davey entered into a new chapter by marrying Christy Monroy, a single mother who attended Resonant Church and shared the same CrossFit gym with Davey. On November 4, 2019, Christy, who had a daughter named Natalia from her previous marriage, gave birth to Davey's son, Cohen David Parker Blackburn. Currently, the blended family is flourishing, as evident from their active social media presence and blog posts. Usually this would be the conclusion of our story. However, in this case, there are lingering unanswered questions and missing pieces of the puzzle that have left some people wondering if there's more to the story. Today, we will explore the alternate theories that have piqued people's curiosity, allowing you to form your own opinion. So without further delay, let's delve into the uncharted territory we've previously left unexplored. Before we proceed, we want to mention that most of this information is allegations or rumors, and Davey had never been under suspicion in the official investigation. We want to make it clear that we do not intend to spread misinformation or support any kind of propaganda. We apologize if anything we have said in this video has hurt somebody's feelings, as it is not our intention to do so. Some people believe that Davey might have been involved in his wife's murder, and he was the one who orchestrated it. Several factors have raised questions about his innocence. For starters, it was revealed that during the investigation, that just 2 months before Amanda's death, Davey had taken out a significant life insurance policy on her. Strangely, this policy came into effect after a mere 8 weeks. Coincidentally, right after Amanda's death. Davey benefited greatly from this. But was it intentional? No one knows. Coming back to the day of the home invasion, there were some unusual deviations in Davey's routine. Those familiar with Davey would attest that he typically left for the gym at 5:30 a.m., but on this particular day he was a half an hour late. His wake-up time was no different than usual, leaving some to wonder about the reason for this anomaly. Furthermore, his workouts typically spanned an hour, but on this occasion it lasted only 45 minutes, excluding the driving time. Additionally, some find it implausible that Davey would sit in his car for an entire hour without entering his home. In light of these anomalies, certain theories have emerged, speculating that he might have been waiting for his wife's tragic fate to unfold. The 911 call in this case is a matter that has drawn significant attention among web sleuths, and for good reason. There are several troubling aspects to it. First and foremost, the time it took Davey to call 911 is unusual. He waited for almost 12 minutes before seeking help, despite discovering his spouse in a severely injured state and covered in blood. This extended delay raises questions. Moreover, the most unsettling part of the 911 call is Davey's strangely composed demeanor. While on the call as the dispatcher connected to another line, Davey remained eerily silent.
She is. Okay, hold on. Stay on the line for EMS while I transfer you.
He made no effort to wake Amanda or communicate with her, even though he knew she was still breathing. This behavior is highly unusual, given the severity of the situation. It's equally perplexing that Davey initially thought Amanda had been in an accident, when in reality she had been viciously attacked and left for dead. These factors contribute to the mystery and speculation surrounding the case. There's another aspect of this case that has raised questions among some observers. They have pointed out how Davey appeared to be capitalizing on this tragedy. During Amanda's funeral, he continuously tweeted the hashtag #NothingIsWasted. Shortly after the funeral, he legally registered the domain name, Nothing Is Wasted, and even used that quote to brand her tombstone. He went on to release a podcast, a book, a blog, all under the same brand name, detailing his personal journey through Amanda's death and the healing process. Critics have pointed out that some of his statements and blog posts seem to revolve around himself, which has raised questions about potential narcissism. For instance, just hours after the arrest in the case, he released a statement in which he expressed rapid forgiveness for the individuals responsible for the death of his spouse.
Feel like forgiving. I feel like being angry. I feel like being mad. I feel like being frustrated. I feel like slipping into despair. But the problem with that is that doesn't lead down to any good road.
For some, the speed at which he chose to forgive those who had essentially torn his world apart was unsettling. His quote, "The best is yet to come," has led to speculation and discussions about Davey's motivations and behavior. Comparisons drawn from Davey's post have highlighted how he sometimes appears distant in his narratives. Some people have observed that he presents the murder in a very matter-of-fact way, and rarely mentions his unborn child, who tragically never had a chance to come into the world. On multiple occasions, Davey has expressed that while the incident has been painful for him, he wouldn't change any of it, and he believes that Amanda is where she needs to be, by Jesus' side. It's possible that Davey, as a man of faith, has accepted everything life has thrown his way, no matter how tragic. He might genuinely be grateful for the life he has been given, despite the immense losses he has suffered. However, whether coincidental or intentional, some of his behavior and statements have raised red flags for certain individuals. In a bizarre coincidence, just 2 weeks before Amanda's tragic death, Davey delivered a sermon in which he acted out a murder scene, repeatedly shooting someone in the back with an airsoft gun. This performance was intended to illustrate how worship could be metaphorically used as a weapon.
To sing, it became a weapon, don't worry, this is an airsoft gun, a weapon to battle worry. I thought we'd just have some fun with it. Come here, Zach, come on. Because sometimes you just need to be reminded. Dare, come hold my microphone. You just need to be reminded that when you get that phone call, instead of worrying about it, step over here, because I'm going to go crossways. Instead of worrying about it, maybe you need to worship. Boom. Instead of worrying about the medical bill, maybe you need to worship. Instead of, I missed right there, but it's okay if your worship misses. Just go again. Maybe instead of worrying so much about your kids, you need to lift it up and surrender it to Jesus in worship. Maybe instead of worrying about the job situation, you need to worship. Maybe instead of worrying about the project at school, you need to study and then worship. Maybe instead of worrying about what other people think about you, you need to worship.
If this video wasn't eerie enough, another incident left many people shocked. In 2018, Davey and his current wife Christy dressed as robbers for a Halloween party and even posted pictures on social media. What added to the unease was the presence of a ladder in the picture, bearing eerie similarities to the circumstances of Amanda's murder. This costume choice, coming just a few years after such a tragic event, raised numerous questions and concerns. Concerns have also been raised by some individuals regarding how swiftly authorities cleared Davey of suspicion. As a renowned local pastor with connections to influential figures and law enforcement, some believe that Davey was never thoroughly investigated. Additionally, theories began to circulate based on Davey and Amanda's own Q&A videos, in which they discussed their marital difficulties and how they overcame them to become soulmates.
Welcome Davey and Amanda to the stage for Q&A right now. Come on, let's go. Give it up. There you go. There you go.
Some people speculated that their marital problems led Davey to seek a way to eliminate his wife. However, it's important to note that while these theories sound like elements of a dark plot, they remain purely circumstantial and have never been substantiated. In fact, it's essential to acknowledge certain gaps in these theories, with a major one being, if Davey was involved in the murder, why did none of the individuals involved, Jalen, Deanna, or Larry, ever mention his name? Ultimately, we leave it to our audience to decide whether the truth lies in what's already known, or if there's something concealed beneath the surface, as we conclude our story here. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you believe Davey had any involvement in his wife's murder? Or do you consider these allegations to be entirely baseless, with the actual killer already behind bars? Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. If there's a case you'd like us to cover, please let us know your recommendations in the comment box. Your suggestion will be much appreciated. If you enjoy our content, please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories.